Hello and welcome to Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I am Jennifer Helm, the Faithful Stamper, and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! I have today for you a fun fold card. I like fun fold cards. I love them when they are simple and easy and don't require a lot of thinking, but yet still are just a lovely card and not just your basic run-of-the-mill card. This is one that I'm calling the Storybook Fun Fold. I'm not sure what the actual name of it is. I made the original card, which I'll show you in a little bit, at a demonstrator retreat, and so I don't know what the name of it was, but I decided I wanted to showcase it on a video, and when I was thinking about what to call it, I thought I like Storybook. It's kind of a card that with the right paper can tell a story. You'll see a little bit more about that in the samples as well. But for tonight, what we're going to do is make a birthday card. So here is the front of our card with our fun little pug. And then when you open the card, it has a panel in the middle. So this is kind of like the pages of your story. And then there's kind of a surprise. On the inside of your back cover is another piece of pattern paper. So usually you have your writing here, but we're actually able to showcase more of our designer series paper using this layout. And I just thought it was a fun, quick, easy fun fold, so I want to share with you. So we'll go ahead and make this. I'm going to make it in a different color so you can see just the variety of cards that you can make, sometimes just by switching up the color of your paper. So this is our card base. It's a little bit different from your standard card. Normally they're 5.5 by 8.5. This is 5.5 by 11. So you get one card base out of a sheet of 8.5 by 11 with a 3-inch strip left over. I made use of the scrap and used them on different cards that I was putting together for my samples. But this is 5.5 by 11, and we're going to make 3 simple score lines. And I went ahead and did that already, but if you've got your camera handy, you can take a screenshot or jot these down. We're going to score the 11-inch side at 4 1/4, 5 1/2, and then 6 3/4. So 3 score lines is all we need to create this fun fold card. So what we're going to do, you can start really with either end, but I fold one of the 4 1/4 inch panels over. That's the front of the card. Then I flip it and fold back on one of the smaller, on the next score line. And then we're going to fold one more time, which creates the whole card. It creates either an M or a W, depending on how you're holding your cardstock. But what we're going to do eventually is glue this together, which creates that fun fold in the middle. And then we have our front cover and our back cover of our card. Now, this one came out pretty close. One thing I noticed is that on a couple pieces of the cardstock, and I can guess maybe the measurements were off just by a little bit as far as the length of the paper, one side was more than the other. This one's so close I wouldn't really even worry about it. But what I found on some of the cards was it was easier for me to do 4 1/2, flip the cardstock, 4 1/4, flip the cardstock 4 1/4, so 4 1/4 in from either end, and then the 5 1/2, that worked out better. The measurements, if you lay them out, are exactly the same. So if your paper is a little off and you're having that trouble, you might want to try the 4 1/4 from either end, just a little tip. Or you can always just cut off the overhang on the offensive side. That works too. So hopefully I didn't confuse you too much there. But I always take a look and just see if one of them's a little bit maybe neater or just a hair over. So this is going to be the front. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the card up, and I want to put some tape in here. Now, you could use glue, but I don't want to sit and wait while this dries. So I am going to use tear and tape. I actually have some wider tape that I'm going to use, but I could use 2 strips of our tear and tape, which is about 1/4 inch. You definitely want to have enough glue here that it's not going to pull apart. I could possibly use Stampin' Seal Plus. That would probably hold it, but I felt better with the tape to know I was getting a secure fit. So I'm going to peel the backing off. Just make sure I don't have any overhanging. And basically you're just folding the 2 small panels together. Give it a nice press, and then I'm going to go ahead and press my crease again, and there is our fun fold. It really wants to stay open, but you can see we've created kind of the inside where we're going to put the pages, so to speak. So we're going to go right on to decorating. Nothing complicated really from here on out. So let me juggle my paper. You will need 2 pieces of Designer Series paper for the front and inside. And I apologize, I realized I forgot my little measurement here. This is 5 1/4 by 4. So I have a piece for the front and then a piece that I'm going to put on this inside back panel. So 5 1/4 by 4. And then in most of the samples, I tried to have 3 different pieces or prints of cardstock, but I was having trouble finding a third. So I used the candles again on the inside. This is 5 1/4 inches tall by 1 1/8 of an inch wide. This is going to go here on the little flap that we created. So you can use the same print. You could leave it blank. You could use embossed cardstock. You could stamp on it. There's any number of things you could do with there. So just keep that in mind when you're putting the card together. Okay, so let's go ahead and get gluing. Now for the rest of the card, you don't need special adhesive. I'm going to use my Stamp and Seal for most of it. I love our Stamp and Seal Plus. That is my go-to adhesive. But the Stamp and Seal is lovely as well. The Stamp and Seal Plus is just a little stronger. It's good for 3D projects. So this is going to be our front cover. And you can decorate these however you like. They don't have to really tell a story. They can if you want. But you can really decorate the card however you see fit. Okay. And then let me come back and glue my strip here on the inside. Okay. So this is a bit of a tighter fit. You could always take it down to 1 inch if you want to have a little more wiggle room on the flap. I usually glue the 5 1/4 panel down first and then try to come back and line it up so it's a pretty visual for you. All right, so next up, I wanted to break up this lovely rows of candles. So I took a piece of Misty Moonlight cardstock. This is about, I believe it's 1 inch tall by 4 inches wide. And I ran it through our Starstruck embossing folder. This is one of our current embossing folders featured in our Celebration incentive that's going on in January and February of 2025. You can check it out online here at my website. Or if you're like me and you prefer paper catalogs, give me a shout in the comments and I will get in touch with you and get your address and I would be happy to mail you a paper catalog. So I'm going to put glue here on our strip of cardstock. I don't know if I mentioned, this is Moody Mauve is the color I'm using. I pulled all my colors right out of this DSP. And there we go. I'll show you the colors side by side here when we're finished the card. Now, let's go ahead and do our stamping and then we'll finish putting the card together. So, I'm going to bring over my Stampin' Pierce mat because most of the stamps I'm using today are photopolymer. That means they're clear. They don't have a built-in cushion. The difference is our red rubber cling stamps, which you can see here, do have that built-in foam layer. So by stamping on this piece of foam, it gives me that cushion. So I can use it with red rubber cling. It's not really hurting or helping anything, but you can use that if you want. But it's a definite help and you get a much better impression with photopolymer stamps. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I have a die cut label. I forgot to show you the stamp sets we're using. Our front features the One More Year stamp set. Here's our cute little pug. Then I'm using our Day to Celebrate, which is one of our celebration items. And then the iconic imagery set is really just for the die cuts that coordinate with it. And I love keeping mine on magnetic sheets right inside the stamp set, and that way I don't lose it. This tree is trying to take a walk. And so here is the longer rectangle shape that I am using. And I love it because I love shapes that have, I always call it a little pizzazz, but a little accent. This has stitching or perforations around the edges. So I'm going to use that. I have Night of Navy and Boho Blue ink here. Again, pulling everything from the DSP, the Designer Series paper, if you're not familiar with Stampin' Up! Lingo. Sometimes I forget, I'm so used to it. I just need to tap my stamp in the ink pad. And then I can see right through the top of the block and line it up. There we go. Now, while I have my mat out, we're going to go ahead and stamp the inside. So your inside piece, the panel, is 3 inches wide by 4 1/4. You could always adjust the size if you want it to be larger. But we're going to go ahead and stamp right on here. I have the It's a Good Day to Celebrate, again using Night of Navy. I think it needs some re-inking. We do sell re-inkers if your ink pad is getting dry, so you can ink them up and refresh them. Then I have our little confetti stamp from the Day to Celebrate. I love doing accents on my cards like that. And then to tie everything together, I'm going to take my envelope and use our pug stamp with Boho Blue. Wouldn't you be dying to see the card that came in that envelope? I know I would be. I always love getting fun envelopes in the mail. It does not happen often enough, in my opinion. All right, I'm going to quick go ahead and close my ink pad so I don't throw anything in it. Stampin' Pierce mat to the side. My envelope can go to the side. So I'm going to take our panel here and glue it to the inside. Now here's the one tricky thing on the whole card. You cannot just glue all around the edges, which we are very often prone to do. If you do that, you'll glue down the fun fold. So just put a strip of adhesive, and I'm switching to my Stampin' Seal Plus because I want to make sure it doesn't fall off the card. I'm just going to put one width right down the edge, almost went a little over. Whew. And then I'm just going to carefully make sure I have enough of the panel on the card so that the tape doesn't show behind. And give that a press. There we go. And then back to finishing the front of the card. I'm just going to use that block to hold it shut. So I pre-cut and colored our little pug. I figure you all know how to color. You don't need to be bored watching me do it. So I stamped in black Memento ink, colored with our Stampin' Blends, Boho Blue, Moody Mauve, little Smoky Slate, and Pretty in Pink. And Ivory is the color for the dog. Didn't want to go too dark. And then I cut him with the hexagon, heartfelt hexagon punch that we have. I love it. It's one of my favorites, and it was perfect size for our little puppy dog. So now I'm going to bring over some dimensionals. I'm going to use large ones on the hexagon here and just anchor all 4 sides. And then this goes on the card, and I'll show you why I'm going to use some smaller dimensionals as well. So here's our pug. I want to put our little banner right on, but I don't want it to be bowed in the middle with another dimensional. So I'm just going to take our mini ones and put one on either end. I could put a little adhesive on here as well, but I don't think I need it. Oop. And this is going to go right over these little tootsies, just like that. And there we go. And just to finish this off, I have some bling. I'm using these little blue, these are our Regal foiled adhesive back dots. I'm trying to be better about using my embellishments and my Designer Series paper. I am a terrible hoarder because it's also pretty. I don't want to use it. So this is the year I'm going to be better about that. And there we go. We have our little pug Storybook Fun Fold. And I mentioned the different colors. Here is the blue version, our Boho Blue versus our Moody Mauve. with a little bit of misty moonlight in there too. All right, so I have more samples to show you. I will show you next the original inspiration for this design. This was the card that I made at my retreat. I just loved it, and I felt like the story, the paper told the story, hence the Storybook Fun Fold. This one has a simple banner on the front, some accents, and a couple of die cuts. Then a little Christmas message or holiday message on the inside. That strip of paper there. And this isn't even Christmas paper. This just coordinates beautifully with the Designer Series paper on the front. I wish I had a ton of this because I think this deer is so sweet and I just love it. Now, the card I made was in the vertical orientation, and you are able to change the orientation of this card and still have that storybook effect. You just have to cut your paper with the 5 1/4 side on the top instead of tall. So here are some cards featuring our online exclusive Amazing Otters. We do have several stamp sets that are online exclusive only found online. And our otters were one of them. Great DSP here, was perfect for this card. A simple little banner, some bling, and then coordinating paper inside. Love you lots. Now on this next one, rather than the 5 1/4 by 4 panel of DSP, I used cardstock first and did a layer, and then I trimmed the paper to 5 by 3 3/4. So you can add an extra layer on the front if you want. Very simple. The paper really does all the work here. Just a simple banner and some bling. Again, simple on the inside. And then last but not least with the otters, one more. This one I did some die cut shapes. And this is actually one banner that I just snipped into, and I put one under my circle and one here on the edge. And this one I left blank. You could always write some more here. I wouldn't want it hanging out on the edges though, so I'd be careful where I wrote. Or you could even add another panel the same size and glue it underneath. That would work too. Okay, now moving right along. I used our new Ocean Friends stamp set for this one. So you can design the front any way you like. Here I used some scraps that I had and some different punches. This is our 2 3/8 inch circle punch. Just pulled together some bright colors, our die cut crab, and some bling. Wouldn't you love this bright happy card? And I love the bright colors in this paper. And of course the coordinating envelope with some seagrass and some bubbles. And then the next two cards here really kind of tie into why I called it the Storybook Fun Fold. This is our Storybook Garden Suite in our new spring mini catalog. This is Designer Series paper. These are die cuts. You get 2 full sheets of die cuts with this paper pack, and I wish there were 100 because I love these die cuts you're going to see here and on the next card, and I really wish I had more than 2 of each one. But a simple stamp in our arch, some embellishments, sending love and best wishes. There's our little bunny. And look at this cute paper, kind of just keeping in with the storybook animals, the baby theme. And this last card is my favorite, and it might have to live on my desk for a little while because I love it so much. This is one of our 6x6 paper packs. Has nothing to do with the storybook animals. It's not related at all, but I was just trying to create more of a scene. And I love how this little badger looks taking a stroll through the grass. So I love this so much, I don't want to give it up. And there you go. One thing I wanted to point out, this stamp is actually, it's only about this long. Actually, right there is the break in the stamp, but I wanted to stretch it. And you are actually able, because it's a photopolymer stamp, to line it up and kind of stretch your little garden wall. And I was able to stretch it all the way across the envelope, and you really would not know that's not one solid stamp. So it's stamped about 3 times. So I just love that, and I had to share. Like I said, this guy might have to stand on my desk for a while. All right. So thank you so much for tuning in and checking out the video on our Storybook Fun Fold. If you are not already a subscriber here, I would love for you to join the community. You can click the notification bell and it'll give you a little ding each time a video is posted here on the page. If you are a Facebook user, you can find me there as the Faithful Stamper, and I share different incentives, personal challenges I do where you can design a card and then be entered to win a random prize from my stash, and different fun things like that. So I would love to have you there as part of that community. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and happy crafting.